students. Today we are going to continue further with Nelson Mandela's chapter, and we started it in the last class, and we saw that it was almost a rule of 300 years, over 300 years of white people over the South African country, and Nelson Mandela had been in jail for almost 27 years. So that was pretty long time, and for that, for his struggle for apartheid, he had to sacrifice a lot of things. So we are going to study that today in our chapter. What all activities did he do, and what all things did he have to sacrifice, and what made him finally do the struggle against apartheid, go anti-apartheid. So let's start with the class and see what is there in the chapter. In the last class, we had stopped here, let freedom reign and God bless Africa. So I will just quickly do a revision of what we have done. We had started the chapter with the ceremony, swearing in ceremony of Nelson Mandela, where a number of prestigious leaders had come over to Africa, and Nelson Mandela has won the election from his party, which is the African National Congress. So he has won the election, and now he is the first president of Democratic South Africa. So it was his speech that he is mentioning over here. After the swearing in ceremony, he is giving a speech, and this chapter is a part of that speech. So we have done till this point, and now I'm going to continue further. So let's see what is written over here. A few moments later, we all lifted our eyes in awe with a spectacular array of South African jets, helicopters and troops carriers rode in the perfect formation over the Union Building. So what was the Union Building? If you could remember, what was the Union Building? Union Building was the office over which the white people had ruled for decades. So now that office is going to be for these black people. So Mr. Mandela, he here describes what was the scenario at that moment. He says that for a few moments later, we all lifted our eyes and we were surprised. Awe means to get surprised. For why they were surprised? They were surprised to see the South African jets, the helicopters and the troop carriers which were flying over the Union Building. It was not only it was not only a display of pinpoint precision and military force, but a demonstration of military's loyalty to democracy, to a new government that had been freely and fairly elected. Only moments before, the highest generals of South Africa Defence Force and police, their chests bedecked with ribbons and medals from days gone by, saluted me and pledged their loyalty. So here Nelson Mandela is describing the scenario. So he says that it was not only these helicopters and the fighter planes and jets, the military which was moving over there, giving their show. It was basically trying to show their loyalty towards the South African government, the newly formed government, which had been freely and fairly elected. And he says that only moments before, the highest generals of South African Defence Force and police, their chests bedecked with ribbons and medals from days gone by, saluted me and pledged their loyalty. So I was not mindful of the fact that not so many years before they would have not saluted but arrested me. So here he is actually saying that these military soldiers who are today saluting me, they and giving me so much of prestige since I have been elected as the president, but these were the people who had, if I consider myself a few years back, these were the people who had arrested me, who had prisoned me, and even tortured me. Finally, a chevron of Impala jets left a smoke trail of the black, red, green, blue and gold of New South African flag. So, this is all the show that was being done by the fighter jet planes, by the jets, and finally what was done, chevron is a V shape, so planes are flying in a V shape. You must have seen when the Independence Day parade happens, in the Republic Day parade happens, the fighter planes, they fly and they leave out the smoke, colorful smokes. So this is just the same sort of scenario which Nelson Mandela is describing over here. The day was symbolized for me by the playing of our two national anthems, the vision of whites singing Niskui Skei I Africa and blacks singing Die Stem. So there were two national anthems that were being sung. Why two national anthems? Because they were whites as well as black, and in order to show the respect, they were singing both the national anthems. Although that day neither group knew the lyric of the anthem they had despised, they could soon know the words by heart. And he says that neither of the groups, neither the black knew the white national anthem, neither the white knew the black national anthem, but then everybody could feel each other's national anthem in their heart, despite this had a very low opinion of. So once both of the communities, the blacks and the white, they used to literally hate each other, have troubled each other, but today both of them are singing each other's national anthem. On the day of the inauguration, I was overwhelmed with the sense of history. Now here, Nelson Mandela, he remembers the past time. He is saying that he is today very happy with the event that is happening, and he is remembering the past. So what happened in the past, he is just going to describe it. In the first decade of the 20th century, a few years after the bitter Anglo-Boer War and before my own birth, the white-skinned people of South Africa patched up their differences and erected a system of racial domination against the dark-skinned people of their own land. So, the first decade of 20th century means it is the time period of 1900 to 1910. Okay, now he says that in that first decade, that is somewhere around 1900, there was there was a war between the English and the African people, and that war was for almost 10 years. So 1900 to 1910, the English and African war was that happened, and it was only after that war that the apartheid system it started. Now what was there in that apartheid system? It was a system of racial domination. So there is domination done on the basis of the skin color against the dark skinned people, and it was done against the dark skinned people of their own land, because the white were also staying over there. So in the same land, in their own land, it was the land of the dark skinned people basically, and the whites had come from outside, so they were ruling. They started doing the racial discrimination, and black people were discriminated in their own land. Okay, the structure they created formed the basis of one of the harshest, most inhuman societies the world had ever known. And how was the structure? How was the scenario at that time? It was one of the harshest, the cruelest we can ever think. now in the last decade of 20th century, so here last decade of 20th century means this is somewhere around 1990 to 2000, and we know that in the year 1994 this whole speech is happening in the year 1994 when Nelson Mandela is swearing in as the president. So he must be somewhere in his 80s, and my own 80th decade as a man, so his 80th birthday, he's in his 80s. That system had overturned forever and replaced by one that recognized the rights and freedoms of all the people regardless of the color of their own skin. So now everything has got replaced, overturned, changed, and today there is recognition. The people have been given rights, people have been given freedom, and regardless of the skin color, without doing any differentiation on the basis of skin color, everyone today has freedom of rights, and everyone has been given respect and recognition.